Welcome to another episode of Cosmos and Commerce, where business tales are stirred, not shaken. I'm your host, Michele Cook with Body Ache Escape Massage Center, and I'm doing this solo today. Janice did not make it. Today, we have a guest who's mastered the art of combating unwelcome critters, all while building a buzzing empire. From the world of banking to ensuring homes in Pickerington are pest-free, she's a true testament that you can shift gears and triumph. She's here to share her tale of grit, growth, and grace. Raise your glasses, listeners, for the formidable force behind champion pest and termite control, the one and only Helen Holloway.
I love these introductions. It makes you sound like this. Man, I can run through a brick wall after hearing that.
Yeah, she is a superhero.
I love it.
Helen, could you share a bit about your background and what inspired you to start Champion Pest and Termite Control?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited to share our story. So I would say that I got dragged kicking and screaming into business ownership. So I met my husband, Dwight, back in 2001. And I was in college. I was a 12-year-old prodigy for sure. But he was in pest control. And I was a banker. That was the summer job that I had when I graduated high school. So basically meet this guy who's crazy, and he was nuts. And I was maybe a little bit crazy too. And I remember telling him like, oh, I need a man with his name on his business card and not on his shirt. And so that probably wasn't my finest moment, but maybe tells you a little bit about my maturity at the time. And he actually pursued me pretty hard. He kept trying, which is great. I appreciate it. And so I married him. So we get married, moved to Columbus, and he can't get promoted. He's working for one of the biggest companies in the world, frankly, and just couldn't break through the ceiling. So he says to me about 6 months after we're married, hey, I'm going to start a business. And I thought that was cute, but surely like you mean a couple of years from now. Maybe a week or two later, we are sitting in church and we hear this sermon that says, I'm designed to be a champion. And he looks at me and he says, there it is, champion pest and termite control. Okay, sure. And then maybe 2 weeks later from that, he calls and says, I have an appointment tomorrow with my first customer. Are you going to make me a contract? And I was like, I'm sorry, what? So literally come home from work that night, type up a contract on Word, make a copy. It's like, it's not 2-ply or, saying I don't have a great way to have a copy of it and to share a copy of it with the customer. And this is 2008. So we're not scanning and emailing, but we're still faxing at this point in history. And so literally I'm like, what are you thinking? We've got a kid and we've got houses, and failure's not an option. And I said, oh, okay. So I followed this crazy guy into this crazy world, and he does it. So he did it by himself. He was a one-man show for a couple of years, and then fast forward to it's our 10-year wedding anniversary, and we've got like just a lot of big things going on, and I get laid off from my job at the bank. Loved the job, favorite team I've ever had. It was everything I wanted, and I get laid off. They eliminate the whole department. And so I said, what am I going to do? So I spent a couple days in the bed crying because
that's what you do.
Because I'm crying. Like, I love that job. And he's offended that I'm just not sweet. I'm just going to work with you. And I'm like, surely you're not offended that I don't think spending all day every day together would be a great choice. But I did. I'm a banker. I'm going to calculate the risks, and I've got all these charts and things, and we can try it for a year. So we did, and I loved it. And I just never went back. Every once in a while, I would look back and be like, oh, my licenses that I've let lapse, or the things that maybe I don't have anymore, especially after conversation. Oh, you don't have your name on your business card. Now all of a sudden I don't have my name on my business card either. And the titles that I had to let go of, but it's been an amazing experience. I could not have written a story, would never have written a story like this for myself.
Yeah. That's awesome how it all fell together though, like that.
It did.
Yeah,
for sure.
Starting a business can be quite challenging. What were some of the initial hurdles you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, sure. So when we first started, of course, I'm working full-time in banking. He took a job selling TVs which actually was one of the best things that could have happened because he learned sales differently. And it was retail, so he could work the business on certain days and then he could work in retail on other days. And so I would just say for us, it was how do you balance your time? How do you balance your, like, what should you be doing and when? And then, of course, you've got two very strong willed people who have ideas of what something should look like. And who wins? There's no tiebreaker. There's no, and I'm going by all the things that I've learned because at this point I've got a master's degree in business, right? Surely what I've seen written is much better than his off the cuff experience. But meanwhile, no, this is what I've seen in the industry. And it was a difficult task to manage the who's on first, who's on second, and what's your lane and what's my lane. But eventually we had to figure that out pretty quickly.
Yeah. I can understand that, having a partner as well. That is a
Yes.
tough thing to maneuver.
Yeah, I mean, you just have different experiences and perspectives and ideas. And so until you either align them or, all right, say, hey, listen, here's your experiment and here's mine, and here's what it'll cost us if we win and what we gain if we lose, it takes some meeting in the middle. But I'm the only child, right? I've never had some middle. It's always just been my way or the highway. And so that was and he's the oldest, right? So he's also had my way or the highway because he just beat up his younger brother and sister until they submitted, and that's just not how I operate.
Yeah.
So it took a little bit of figuring it out, and we still had to stay married.
Yeah.
Another thing that was important to us.
Yeah.
And yeah, that just took some figuring out. We still figure it out every day, but
it sounds though that you're maybe the analyzer and he's like a visionary.
100%. Yeah. I see forest, he sees trees. As far as he's concerned, we're going to do this right now and we're going to run with it. And I'm like, yeah, and what's that look like next week, next month, next year? And he's, I don't know, we'll get there. Worry about that when we get there. And I'm like, yeah, oh, it's not how I operate. And even something as simple as we are trying to go to a thing and I'll say, what time are we leaving today? And he's, I don't know, whenever we're ready. No, I need a time. I need some structure. And he's, I'm ready now. No, you didn't warn me. Like, so just how we have to understand each other's quirks. But it's been 22 years. At this point, I know what to expect. But yeah, it's still always a challenge to figure out when to fight the battle and when not to.
Yeah, I always appreciate the analyzers because I know I don't pay attention to the details and somebody needs to. So the Chiron is our analyzer.
I love it. It's great to have an amazing partner. That's invaluable.
Yes. Can you share a story of a high point in your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, so as soon as I lose my job, so they announced it in January, I have to thug it out till April. And that's just not how I operate. I can't.
Yeah.
Again, I see forest and my forest says there's not going to be any trees left. So why am I putting my energy into this thing? But of course, it's important to me to leave the job with dignity and all the things. And so I did my best to balance some of that in the most honoring way I possibly could. But then these contracts come up. And one of them is the city of Columbus, which of course is the largest city in the state. One of them is Columbus City Schools, which is the largest school district in the state. And sometimes, are we equipped for this kind of thing? And you research it and you can make it happen. And we won those. And so very quickly, the salary that I spent so many days crying in the bed about is replaced. And so you're like, look how God made that happen. And then a couple years later, so of course, those are all on a time contract and you don't know whether or not you'll keep them. But a couple of years later, we lose them. They're quantity, not quality, which is fine. That there's a place for that in the growth of a business. But we lose those contracts and we still continue to exceed and pass the goals and the numbers. And so you're like, I guess this thing really is destined for success. You lose a big contract like that and you begin to get just a little nervous, but you figure out how to replace some of that. And I think that's the continued favor that we feel from God in the spaces. It's just been like, all right, you're doing the right thing when those kinds of things are happening and aligning and moving forward.
Yeah, that's awesome.
God has really provided for us in this journey. I grew up in church. My stepmom is a pastor, so I'm a pastor's kid. And for anybody who doesn't know, we say that PKs are usually just a little bit rambunctious and rogue, and we go against the grain. Now, I was almost an adult by the time that she began to ministry. I got to maybe not experience the entire PK experience, but you think that you have faith, or you think that you are believing in God until something happens, and then it's like your faith is tested. Do you really believe, or did you just like the idea of believing? It's like a diet even, right? I'm trying to try. But like when the brownie hits the plate, are you still trying, or do you concede? And I would just say to us, God's been faithful. And you look back and you're like, man, my experience in this aligned with this, so that I can do this today. And my experience with that, and how God puts people in their life like you, right? We meet at a random thing in a whole different city, and we're neighbors, quote unquote. And you're like, man, that all just really aligned and worked well. And in fact, when we did the SBA Scale Up program was the time in which my job had literally just collapsed. That mid-January, it was like, hey, you're losing your job, but here's a program. And I'm like, all right, let me apply really quickly and see what happens. And it all just aligned and made such a, like, all right, I see that. Or the number of people who do business with us that I ran into at the bank that I didn't solicit to necessarily, but they come back into our lives and we're like, I know that person. Or my husband will say, oh, I met this landlord today. And I'm like, oh, I banked him for years. Wow. And you're like, all right, I love how it just all aligns. And there's a great master plan that, again, as a planner, I want to know. I want to control, but I don't always get the opportunity to do that. But again, that's the beauty of having a partner who's roll with the punches. And and same thing. There are so many times where he's just, I thought you had faith. I'm like, I do until it's theory. And it doesn't add up. I'm doing the numbers and the math ain't mathing. But it does. You look back and like, all right, we pulled it off somehow. And I don't know. I think that's the lesson, is when you are walking in your destiny, it'll work out. It'll completely fall into place.
That's giving me hope for our big move coming up.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited for you. I'm like, this works great. It's just it's the right thing, and everything always does fall into place, right? There are times where things fall out of place, and it's very frustrating, but it becomes the right thing at the right time.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about you and Dwight working together. Are there any specific strategies that you two use to effectively manage your roles? Do you have any?
Your wife is always right. That's the strategy. Follow your woman. No, working with your spouse is not for the faint of heart. And it does take a lot of finding the medium. For example, Dwight is, when it's on his mind, here it comes. It's coming out his mouth, and it doesn't matter what you're working on. Here it comes. And I'm like, no, we need to schedule some time. I need to process what you're saying. And so we found a way. So every week we have a meeting to go through the things. And so sometimes, obviously, there are some ancillary things that we got to figure out now. I can't wait till next Wednesday to talk about what the quote is. This is where we got to get this done now. But if there's should we buy the vehicle? Which one should we buy? What should it look like? Should we hire the person? What's the value? Like some of those conversations that just take a little longer, we table them and we sit down and we have them. We're trying to get them uninterrupted, right? It's hard to do when people need you. So we try and make sure our time is protected and uninterrupted. We have a great plan of what we're going to talk about, what we need to table, what takes more precedence now than the other. But you have to know your spouse, right? I am not a morning person. I do not want to talk before 9 o'clock. I just don't. There's nothing needs to be said. But I'm washing dishes, and those things come to my mind at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'm ready to talk, but that doesn't work. So what I do, I can literally be sitting on the couch next to Dwight, and I'll email him all the thoughts, all the things. And then when I wake up the next morning, he's been up since 4 or 5 o'clock, and I have all my responses, and I can manage all the things. And it works well for us, because otherwise there were just times when he would be bringing work home and I wasn't ready. I wasn't in position. And sometimes I'll say, I'm listening, but I'm not retaining, right? I'm listening to you as your spouse, as your friend, but as your business partner, this has to be tabled. I can't solve this. And so just knowing, and again, I'm forest, he's trees, right? So if he says a thing, how he doesn't have the logistics ironed out. It's on me they call me the processor. It's on me to process it, and that's fine. And sometimes I have to say, this isn't logistically going to work. And sometimes but make it work. What's that balance of who and how? But when you're in business with a partner that you trust and that trusts that you have everybody's best interest, then that helps. But I'm sure there are situations where you're like, I don't know that I trust that this person has done all the things. I'm analysis paralysis. So I have done all the research, but when do we pull the trigger? It's my problem. But you did it? Great, go buy it. I'm like, you know what that costs? Now, he only does that on the really expensive decisions. If it's like $100 bee suit, we have to discuss it and analyze. I'm like, no, spend $100. And that was one of the things. Like, I told him way early, if we have to argue over $100 decision, this business is not big enough and not ready for me to join it. I don't want to have to run every $100 decision past you. Now, every $10,000 decision, maybe we'll have a good conversation, but it depends on what the $10,000 even is, right? Like, if you're spending $10,000 in products for that service, spend it. And so just knowing your roles and being able to separate. And sometimes I have to say, hey, I love you. I am your wife right now. I am not your business partner. Stop talking to me.
Yeah.
Stop talking to me. Stop talking to me like that. Stop talking to me about that. And we've learned the balance. And he knows when I mean it. But it's all about finding the balance in your relationships, spouse or not spouse.
Yeah, that is very true. I'm sure Kyron is so glad that he's not married to me also, because we would probably be talking business all the time.
All the time. Especially as when you have an entrepreneur mind, something hits you and you want to say, you think about it. And I'm like, yep, noted, wrote it down. We'll talk about it later, but it's hard.
Yeah, I do something similar to what you do with your emails. Kyron and I also meet once a week to talk all the things. And rather than texting him at 10 o'clock at night when I have an idea, I schedule the text to show up right before our meeting. So he has this whole list of texts. So I remember.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are so many tools. Like, using tools is so valuable to your business and honestly life. It's a whole management process of all the things. We don't have to do business the way our parents and grandparents did.
Right.
Use tools.
All right, let's switch into a little bit of strategy now. Yeah. What marketing tactic has yielded the most significant return on investment for Champion Pest and Termite Control?
So Dwight would say, when he's out hanging out, like watching the game, going out with his friends, he meets people. And he's right. He literally meets people anywhere and everywhere. We used to hang out at a local restaurant and he would come back with business cards. And I'm like, thought you were hanging with Eric. And he's, yeah, but Eric introduced me to this guy and he's a landlord. So I would say, honestly, it's relationships. People do business with people. And that's a tactic I learned in the bank, is how to be the people that the person wants you to be. And our service, sometimes it's curative, sometimes it's preventative. It really just depends. But the question is, do they want to do business with you? Because if you come in and you're a jerk and you're a bulldozer, like, sometimes that's not going to work. Yeah. And if you come in and you're understanding and you're empathetic and they know you can fix the problem. And that's the thing. Dwight puts off him more than me because he's the bug killer. But he puts off this, I'm going to fix your problem. He's a problem solver. That's what he does. And so it just really works for us the people that know us are apps. They want to do business with Dwight. And he's fun. He's very charismatic.
Yeah, he is.
But they want to do business with him. And so that works out. I'm just Dwight's wife.
No.
But I tell people, it's funny because people say that, right? And I think that's a thing that women run into sometimes, especially when they're working with their husband. And it's, oh, you work for Dwight, right? Or, oh, can Dwight let you have the day off? I'm like, so a couple things about how Dwight and I work. Or I remember when I first lost my job, I kept hearing like, so when are you going to go back to work? I'm like, I am working.
Yeah.
These bills don't pay themselves. This payroll doesn't run itself. The systems and processes and things, like, I enable him and enable our team, honestly, to get things done. And if something ain't going right, then he's in the field and I'm in here fixing it. And I think that's a struggle that we face. And he has done a great job of saying out loud, no, we're partners. And again, I don't do bugs and he don't do numbers. And so we partner well. The number of people who are like, and how you work for your husband. I work for him and he works for me.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Can you share an instance where a unique strategy dramatically changed the trajectory of your business?
Yeah, I would say, so a couple of things. And I would say perhaps the Scale Up program was one of the things that really brought to our attention that you have to work in your business and you have to work on your business. And so I don't think there's any magic golden bullet egg thing that fixes a business. I think it's just always paying attention and focusing on it. And one of the jokes that I make, my daughter is 13, my business is 15. They're both teenagers. In a lot of ways, they can function very well alone, on their own. I'm not changing diapers. I'm probably not cooking you dinner. Like, you know what to do and how to do it. But there are some times where they do need your attention. And sometimes you forget that to give it the attention that it really needs. And I have before created a list. All right, today I'm going to work on my business doing these things. Because if you don't, and you don't put the time into chamber events and pick what matters, right? Not everything deserves your attention, but if you don't take the time to work on your business, your business becomes stale. Your pricing may be wrong. Your product may be wrong. Your services, your packages may not be proper. So you just always have to be always improving and working on what's next and how do you anticipate the customer's next need.
Yeah, that's so true.
Also, sometimes we run into who should take it, right? Some of the stuff I know enough, and some of it Dwight knows enough, but like, where's the intersection? So he just finished, I don't know if you've heard of Renogize has Intentional Leadership Academy. And he just finished that. Jen and Sean Olson are great people. They're here in Pickerington as well. And I hear Dwight tell it. He's a great leader, and he wasn't necessarily a bad leader, but certainly leadership is you develop that over and over again.
Yeah,
and so you can just see the difference in someone who has been through, and I was in corporate, so I went through a lot of leadership training and some of those things. And so he went through, it wasn't a lot of his time. It was a good use of his time. And there were parts of it that maybe didn't always apply to him, but just continuing to always just grow who you are. Like, you never, until you stop breathing, you're never done. Like,
right?
You can learn more and you can do more. And again, just reflecting back on, so when I met my husband, my stepson was 2. And that's my favorite size. They're cute and everything. And honestly, he's now 24 and he still thinks I know everything, which is also why I love that kid. But we would count every stair and we would count every, fork. And I remember one time when Dwight and I were dating, he was like, is everything a learning experience? And I was like, yes, everything still is. So 20 years later, I'm still reflecting on everything is a learning experience. And we were out to dinner the other day and Dwight said, some version of like, you made me mad and you did well. And I'm like, what does that mean? And he was like, you're turning me into a CEO. And I was like, yes, I am.
It's sexy.
Because everything is a learning experience, and just continuing to always grow and develop you as a person and our business and our teams. And there's just so much to be learned. And so another example, I was at Cooper's Hawk with Dwight. That's one of our favorite places to strategize with our wine tastings. The best strategy is done over wine, right? And I run into this person who had worked for me in the job that I left, the last job I left.
Oh, yeah.
Long story short, her husband did a lot with franchises, and we later on grabbed some more wine at Cooper's Hawk and dinner and had a great conversation about franchising and what does that look like if Champion would choose to do that and all of those things. Again, never thought having her in my life would mean, because it's been 7 years since I've left the bank and she'd left before I had, but 10 years later, run into her. She has now married someone who just can speak into our business. Like, it's crazy how that happens. And we had literally just been saying, like, we got to figure out what's next and what does this look like. And then here comes this guy who he actually was like a territory manager and built the franchising for one of the largest franchisors, honestly, in the country. So it's like, good. All right. Can I pick your brain? And he was like, yes. And he just literally word vomited to us for about 2 hours.
So you think you might pursue that?
I don't know. Depends on what day you ask me. So here's the thing, right? We are in Central Ohio, which is like the hottest area right now in my mind. And not even just Central Ohio, but literally right in the middle of a big project in Johnstown, a big project in Circleville, a big project in Lancaster. And I am sitting right in the middle of it. How we'll scale depends on the day you ask me. Today, we're not. Today, we're going to add more staff and grow this thing from here. But you asked me yesterday or tomorrow, maybe it'll change. We'll see.
Yeah, mine changes too. Today I want to franchise. Tomorrow I want to sell my business. It just depends.
I'm like, how much money do I need? All right, so 41. I've got 60 years ahead of me at least. My grandmother was 99 and a half and in great health when she passed. So I'm like, all right, can I live for 60 more years?
What I've got in the bank, I don't know.
The answer is no. That either I can't live or I just can't live how I choose. Right. I can survive, but I can't live how I choose.
Yeah. Okay, so back to strategy. What are the strategies that you use to ensure customer loyalty and retention?
Yeah. You got to know your customers. We're big on relationships. And we've got a lot of customers. We don't have great relationships with each and every one of them. Some of them we don't even see. We service the outside of your house and might not ever talk to you again because you're on auto pay and you don't want to talk to us. So if we don't want to talk, don't talk. If they do want to talk, talk. Pet the dog, like high five the kid, bring the trash cans up. Just the little things that creates that customer loyalty, and it's you can't replace that. And you just have to know what your customers want. One of our guys has been with us, I think 12 years, I think is where we're at now. And he knows I can say, hey, here's Mr. Customer. And the address the house is blue, the dog is green, the kids are 12 and 14, right? Like he knows those people. And Dwight is the same way. And he'll say, oh, you've got that person on the schedule. Don't forget the neighbor and so. And I'm just like, I don't know what I had for breakfast this morning. And this guy is telling me all the neighbors on the street that we don't even live on. But that's the thing. They know that at the end of the day, Dwight will take care of them or we'll take care of them, and that they're going to be well taken care of. And that's really what people want, is the security and to know that their problems will be solved, especially in our industry.
Yeah, that's great. You talked about Will as your employee.
Yes.
Employee happiness is a crucial aspect of any business. What's your top advice to keep your team motivated and satisfied?
Yeah, I would say, again, just like you have to know your customers, you have to know your team. So Dwight wants to win. If there's a prize at the end, great. If there's not a prize at the end, also great. And even sometimes, again, I have to say, Dwight, I am your wife and I am not trying to compete with you. We're in a fantasy football league together and he is sabotaging me.
Oh, no.
Every Sunday from 12 to 1, I'm like, we're not married. Don't talk to me, because he gives me the worst advice. And there's I think, $200 prize at the end, but it is not worth our relationship, right? But Dwight wants to win. All of our guys don't want to win. One of my guys wants to get home to his family. So what can I do to make sure his route is efficient, that he's done at the right time so that he can get home to his family? One of my guys wants to go home and play video games and take a nap. So when he gets done at 2:00, he is content because he can go home, take a nap, and play video games, right? So you just have to know what's important to your team. And when you know that, then it's easy to feed that. But that gets hard because there comes a point where you don't know what every employee likes or needs, but somebody has to. So how do you make sure that those people are feeling appreciated and that they're part of the team? And how do we win together, and that they're bought in and all the things? And I think you just have to know you have to know your people.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've been wondering how, if I want to continue to grow, like how you keep that connection. Mm-hmm. I guess you have to.
Yeah. I think one of the things, so Will is really he's our primary trainer for a lot of our newer technicians when they come in. And sometimes there's a title attached to leadership and sometimes there's not. And even when there's not necessarily a title attached to it, just respecting people as a leader, sometimes it is just about a pat on the back or, hey, let's grab a drink, we're all done early, or whatever the little thing is. And some of that just, it means a lot. And then sometimes people are like, I don't want to grab a drink, I want to go home. And I'm like, yep, cool, bye, have a great day. Sometimes if it's a holiday weekend, we're going to try and get those guys out early on Friday. And you've worked hard, especially like July 4th. July is one of the the peak season for us. Everything's swarming. We're doing mosquitoes. Like termites are. So like on July 4th, if I can get you out early, like I'm going to try and get you off early. And then same thing with Christmas. Obviously we're in pest control in Ohio. There's no great reason to make people work Christmas Eve. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Who wants you in the house on Christmas Eve? And those creatures that are stirring are just going to have to be there till the 26th. So we try to be super honoring in those things. Your vacation time and just how do we flex some of those things? Let's be honoring to our people.
Okay. Yep. How do you start your day to ensure you're in the right frame of mind for business?
I lay really still until Dwight leaves so he doesn't talk to me. As soon as I stir in the morning, he wants to talk about it. At that point, he's 2 cups of coffee in.
Oh, no.
And I don't like to talk. So you lay really still until it's quiet in the house. That's step 1. My daughter's an 8th grader. She has to be on the bus at 6:30 in the morning. Dwight's on morning duty. But she'll come in and she sometimes will snuggle mama in the morning still, which is weird. She's 5'7" and 130 pounds. That's a great part of my morning. She's the only reason I will wake up a little. And I don't even really wake up. Like she gets in and we go back to sleep. So I think a great snuggle is usually the best part of my day. And then I have to shower. I am absolutely a morning shower. Like that is the only way you have to add water for me to function.
It wakes you up.
Like, don't talk to me till I shower. That's it. And I typically go straight there. I do make the bed every morning. I don't know if you've read the book about making your bed and how that really gets your day started. I do make my bed. Last person out the bed makes it. So it's not always me. Sometimes Abby's last, sometimes Dwight. Dwight's last about once out of 100 times. Okay. So he's usually not last, but Abby or I will typically make the bed in the morning. And then honestly, if I can come in, if I can, my best days, I'm here before everybody else. I don't answer the phone unless it's like super busy. And I just take some time, make my list, get through some of the things. That first hour is probably the most productive because I know what I need to get done. I can get it done pretty quickly. I feel like if I ever start my day past like 9 o'clock, by the time I actually get started, now I'm hungry and I gotta go get lunch. And then the phone is ringing and the people are here and honestly, even like the people that support me, some of my partners along the way, I'm like, can we talk at 7:30, 8? Because that's just, and first of all, I don't have a lot of extra words. So we get through things pretty quickly at that time of the morning, but it's just the beginning of my day, like 9 to 5 is just hard.
Nice.
I also really work well at night, especially when we were first starting the business and Abby was little and I was still working full time. Saturday nights were my absolute favorite time to do QuickBooks, to make sure things were right. Saturday Night Live and I would just roll and I could get so much done. And Dwight would go to sleep and Abby would go to sleep and just the lull of night, especially at Christmas when the Christmas tree is in the corner. I'm happy to put everybody to bed and just be in the evenings.
Yeah. Sounds nice.
And that's backwards, right? These businesses, they say, get up at 5 o'clock. Dang. You do not want a 5 o'clock in the morning, Helen. That's very good people tell you.
Yeah. I'm more of a night owl too. Joe will go to bed early and I'll stay up for 4 more hours getting stuff done.
1 a.m. is about the right bedtime for me.
Oh, right out. Yeah. How do you handle stress or overwhelming situations in the business world?
We don't have them here at Champion.
No stress.
Yeah, no stress. Oh, it's easy. I would say probably Cosmos and Conversations.
Yeah. The wine.
Wine. Yeah. I think, no, but really, it's like knowing what you love and making sure you make time to do it. You're going to go through hard things. And for me, I need to know what's at the end of that. All right, I'm going to fight through this thing, but then I'm going to schedule a massage with Andrew at Body Ache Escape afterwards. Or I'm going to meet with my friends and grab a drink or hang out with Abby. We like to go to the movies. Like, you got to, for me, I have to have kind of a goal at the end, and that helps me plow through. And I collapse pretty quickly. I'm not the person that gets super emotional in stress. I'm like, all right, cool. What's A, B, C, D? I'm very black and white and very plowed through, but then I just collapse at the back end. So I just need to make that space to collapse. That's important.
Yeah. That's good advice. What is
the massage part, right?
Yeah, the massage part is the bestest.
But don't schedule with Andrew because he's already busy enough. You'll need to schedule with somebody else so that I can get in when I need to get in.
True. Facts. Rochelle and Zakira are good second places.
Great. Good to know.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's on the fence about starting their own business?
Yeah. A couple things I've seen in my banking career and in my career as a business owner is you can't chase money, right? You have to do what you love and let the money chase it. Now, you have to solve a problem in doing what you love, right? If you love basket weaving and like baskets are not in, that's not going to do it. But is there a way to bridge the gap between what you love doing and what someone needs done, and so that you can manage that? There's got to be, you've got to find that. And honestly, it's okay not to be a great entrepreneur. That's okay. We need really good workers too. And so find someone who does what you want to do and does it well and is honoring and pays you well to do it. That's okay. Just so many times I would see business owners who were just really good at their craft, but didn't know how to manage the taxes or the payroll and that stuff. Man, I spend more time managing those things than I don't kill bugs, but I spend more time doing those things than I do doing other things, like putting out the fires. When you're a business owner, you're not doing the thing. You're managing it, you're influencing it, but you're not doing it. And so it's one of the things Dwight struggles with. Sometimes he wants to be in the field and he wants to do the thing. Again, that's why I'm his partner who can fill that gap for him when it comes to all the other things. But the period of time when he did it and I wasn't working in the business full time, he was all things, and you can't be all things well. So you've got to figure that out. But Dwight will tell you, and again, he gets up at 4 or 5 a.m. and he's drinking his coffee and watching the news because he needs to see what traffic is doing, because we've got guys going out on the road and we need to know what's closed and what's open, or we need to see what weather is doing, and if we're on our level 2, are we calling people off? But he will tell you he wakes up in the morning and it is not work. It's exciting and he's ready to do it. Now, I'm not going to say it's not work. It's definitely work, but I enjoy it. And so you have to enjoy what you're doing because it's a lot of work.
Yeah. You reminded me of the E-Myth book. Did you ever read that?
No, I've heard about it.
Yeah.
And recently on a podcast.
Yeah. What you were just talking about is pretty much the entire book. So you don't need to read it, but
I was going to say, maybe they should pay me.
Yeah, they should. So
I'm obviously the reason why they wrote it.
Yeah. When I was still doing massages, I would have clients that would say, so do you have a busy day? I never knew how to answer that, because I'm like, you're my only massage, but I've got this. Or they're like, are you working the rest of the day? I'm like, well, yes. Not doing massages.
I'm always working. And then the other thing for us is that in our busier seasons, I'm not soliciting and I am not working as hard as Dwight may be. But he'll look at me and say, what do you have to do today? I'm like, what do I have to do? What do I plan to do?
Yeah.
What else could I do? It never ends. And so I'm like, so the other thing, one of my favorite things to say to him is ask the question you want the answer to. If you're saying, hey, do you want to grab lunch? Let me say yes or no. But if you ask me what I have to do today and I show you this list of things and you're like, oh, you don't have time for it. No, you should have asked me, did I want to grab lunch? Ask the question you want the answer to.
Yeah.
Unapologetically.
Yeah, that is really good advice all around. If you had to attribute your success to one mindset or principle, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say have a good partner. And obviously my husband is my business partner. But even outside of him, do you have other business owners that you can bounce ideas off of? Make sure you've got a great accountant, a great attorney, a business coach is super useful. We look at these athletes and we're like, man, LeBron James, or we'll use Nick Chubb because that's my guy and he's hurt. But
Okay.
like we look at these athletes and we're like, yes, LeBron is the face of it. But there's certainly a nutritionist that helps him eat what he needs to eat, and a trainer who stretches him out, and a coach who does it, and frankly, his wife who must hold down the house with the kids at home. And who can support you? I think we make the mistake of saying business ownership is like living on an island. And like for a long time, Dwight and I created that island for ourselves. Sometimes people don't understand the things you're going through, and that's a different, I think, situation. But at the end of the day, like having a good team around you and acknowledging that team and supporting that team and is super important. And we look at our top performing athletes, they're making bazillions of dollars. And we high five LeBron for what he's doing, and he has all those people around him. Why wouldn't we expect our business owners to have all the same team and tools? And so just don't make the mistake of thinking that you're in it alone. Somebody's been through it. Yeah. Find them. Somebody understands. Somebody can help you. Let's not wait till you owe the IRS back taxes or whatever the thing is before you engage. Using the right tools, the people, or software sometimes, but really people, I think, because somebody's going to tell you about that product, or you've got to just make sure you don't operate on an island. That's yeah. It's not, and you drive yourself nuts. You'll be crazy talking to yourself. And yeah, you need to surround yourself with good people.
I agree. Many entrepreneurs fear failure. How do you perceive failure, and how has it helped shape your journey?
Yeah, everything's an experiment, right? So you throw something at the wall, see what sticks, and you just need to reevaluate it. Again, being the only child, the word no is just not something I enjoy hearing. I don't know how to react to it. So no usually is not no to me. It's not right now. And sometimes, and I feel this a lot of times with people who people operate, most people I think operate in the standard and the norm. And if you're going to be successful in your business, or like those who have exceeded expectations somehow went outside the norm to catch the attention, because the norm is not attention grabbing. And don't expect that your failures or that your no's or that the weird things that you're doing, you got to embrace those. That's what pushes you above and ahead and faster than the rest. And it's going to fail sometimes. Great. What failed? What is it? Eat the meat and throw away the bones. Like, you have to take what worked, the parts of it that worked, apply it where you can, and throw out the rest. But you also have to figure out what's the right amount of that for you, right? There's a cost. Your time, it could be your money, it could be like relationships. So just make sure you're calculating your risks well and the costs of it, but try it. I think one of the best experiments we've ever had is we've hired some family members and friends of family. And I, again, calculating the risk, I'm like, nope, I'd rather be your friend than you. But Dwight tried it, and it has worked really well for him. And that's way out of the ordinary. I would never, ever recommend something like that, but it has worked. And so honestly, we've had neighbors that worked for us. We've had family and friends of family or family of friends. And that is a highly calculated risk that could have gone very wrong very quickly. And for us, it didn't, but that doesn't mean it's not going to go wrong for you. And just making sure that you have really well calculated that is super valuable.
Yeah. Most of the time that went wrong for us.
Once. It went wrong one time, but not in a bad relationship sort of way, but this ain't gonna work. Thanks anyways.
You're fired. Still love you.
Yeah. Bye. Bye. See you Thanksgiving. You are. You're going to see them again. And everybody knows, hey, let's try it. And if it don't work, no hard feelings, okay? And that's just... Again, that's also out of the ordinary.
Yeah. When you outline like expectations in the beginning of what what happened at the end, then it's better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But looking back, most of those people have been the best. I have decided we will no longer advertise for technicians. We will source technicians with our friends, our family,
Oh, yeah.
because when we advertise outside, it's okay sometimes, but when we source them from people, it's so much better. The
Yeah.
quality of person that we end up with.
I've seen you post about that before on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you do that.
Over and over. Give me your son. I know you know somebody. I think one of my posts was, between Dwight and I, we have however many hundred Facebook friends. Surely one of you has some, right? Unapologetically. And that's what happened. I hired the brother of one of my daughter's volleyball players.
There you go.
Okay. I hired some guy who posted on Facebook, hey, I'm looking for a job, and had a one-on-one conversation with him. We have sometimes been at a McDonald's, at a Burger King, and I've been like, hey, can I talk to you? Unapologetically, I'm going to source differently. That can go wrong too. It can fail. And I'm also like fishing in a very small pond. It's all about where I'm going and who I'm running into. But
yeah, I wish I could find massage therapists like that, because they have to have a special degree or certificate. So it's a little bit trickier.
I get it. But like some of your other people, I don't know, like maybe office staff or some of that, like I can teach you how to kill bugs. I can't teach you how not to be a jerk. So you have to come with that skill automatically, and then I'll teach you the rest.
Yeah. Looking back, is there something you wish someone had told you when you were just starting out?
I would say outsource early. I am the only mom Abby has. The only wife. I'm the only daughter my dad has. So there are places where you need to be you. No one else can do that. But guess what? Somebody can mop these floors and cut this grass and pull these weeds. And at this point, I will unapologetically just outsource the things that I think someone else can do and can do well. And you look back and you're like, Helen's yard looks great, but nobody knows whether Helen spent 10 hours in the yard or somebody else. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, my time with Abby is short. My time with people can be short. Seasons of life happen, and people move, or people pass away, or whatever the thing is, or relationships. We just get busy and go different directions, because you've got a son and I've got a daughter, and we aren't in the same spaces. But I will not outsource my husband. Just experiences that they don't last long, especially with kids, or just time. You just don't know. And if there are things that I can have someone else do, or that I can, now some of that's hard, right? So one of the things that I probably should be outsourcing that I'm not doing a great job of is some of my financial stuff. I don't want anybody I'm a banker. I don't want anybody in my money. I have who I have, but there's a line where you got to trust people, and inspect and verify and protect yourself the best you can, and maybe place great limits, but outsource what you can often. And early.
That's good advice. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a couple of fun questions.
Okay, go.
If Champion Pest and Termite Control had a signature cocktail, like a Cosmo, for instance, what would it be called, and what's in it?
So it would probably be called Head First, because that's how we jump into things. Jump first and ask questions later. And it'd probably be like this mix of a bunch of random alcohols, like a Long Island, where you're just like grab all the bottles and just turn them all upside down and then shake it up and see what happens.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You're going to be thinking about your head first the next morning. That's for sure.
Listen, you'll look back and you'll be like, man, that was worth it. Now you can't do a whole bunch of them, and that might be the first and last drink you have for the day, but that's all right. You'll wake up the next morning and be like, man, that was it. I survived.
Yeah. All right. Let's switch gears for a moment into some lightning round questions.
All right, let's go.
Okay. You ready? All right. What is the book you've most given as a gift, or the book that's made the biggest impact on you?
5 Love Languages. Gary Chapman. You can apply it to your marriage, your children. They actually have a children's bird, like how to love language your children, your business, know your people, treat them the way they want to be treated.
Yeah.
Know how you want to be treated, and also help them give that back.
Yes. What's your love language?
Mine is words of affirmation.
Okay.
Not necessarily what you say, but don't discount what I've done or I am. So if I wash the dishes, do not point out to me that the trash needs to go out because I wash these dishes.
Okay. Yeah.
You better spend some time. I don't need you to say, hey, great job on the dishes. What I don't need you to say is, hey, you forgot to take out the trash.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I gotcha. Mine is acts of service. So please take out the trash for me.
I love it. And they say, like, in the love languages book, it varies depending on your season. So, like, when Abby was super little, acts of service was it because it was like I didn't want to wake up and look around and see all the things that needed to be done.
Yeah.
But now it's, I just don't talk to me crazy.
Yeah. What's an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love?
A bunch of things. Dwight and I like to watch live music. We like to travel to see live music and concerts. We just did 50th anniversary of hip hop at Yankee Stadium and all of Run DMC. It was great. So we like to do that, and we've gotten to the point where we're going to travel to do that. We'll go see anybody anywhere because then you get to travel and music. It's cool. But probably my biggest unusual obsession is my Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
They're terrible and
yeah. You must be
gentlemen,
sad.
marry a Browns fan. She's gonna be loyal.
Yeah. You have to be sad a lot.
You do.
Yeah.
You have to bounce back Monday morning.
Yeah.
You have to almost win. So if that man or woman is a Browns fan, they are loyal.
Yeah. My husband is a Browns fan. He was very excited last week, but not as excited. He was mourning the broken leg.
I know. It was bad. It was terrible.
What is your proudest accomplishment?
I would say probably champion, right? I feel like I went to school forever and did all these things, but you look back and you're like, I think that growing this thing and having some fun with it and loving on people. The guy that we met that I was telling you about who did the franchising, one of the things he was saying is like he was so proud of how many millionaires he made over time. And so just the way we've been able to support our team, they've bought houses and we've never had any new babies. I don't know why that is. They built houses and graduated children, and just being able to watch that and how those things, their lives have been changed by the job that they have here, and being able to support that, I think, has really been, and sometimes even just the non-traditional people that we hire and how we can help them just make a difference. It's been fun.
Yeah. What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life?
Massages with Andrew. Again, I carry the weight of the world on my shoulders and in my back. So I can spend that $100 or so and he just takes it. And he just hurts me so good. I ask him during one of my massages, do people moan? Sometimes they do, and it's creepy, so I didn't moan.
Yeah.
But for
only you, Helen. Only you.
I was like, surely this feels so good to everybody else that they too moan, but
yeah,
I
can't wait to share. I can't wait to share this podcast with him.
I'm a big Andrew.
Yeah. What is your current passion project?
I think like me and my kid and my family. I am working really hard. What I can do, like you go into this young and you're like, I can take on the world. I can be every woman. I can do all the things. And then you hit 40, which by the way, ladies, 40 is not the new 30. They lie to you. It's a lie. 40 is not the new 30, but also in some good ways, right? So you hit this point, maybe 40-ish, and you're like, you know what? I can, but I don't have to be all those things. I don't have to be everything to everybody. I don't have to be what you want me to be. I can look at and then of course you're teaching this to a teenager, and that's a whole nother level. But yes, the church is going to tell you they want your time. Volleyball is going to tell you they want your time. Mom wants your time. Dad wants your time. Your friends want your time. And it's up to you to look back and say, all right, where am I going to spend my time for real? And not just the person or the thing that is flashing their lights in front of you. And don't sometimes pay a little attention, right? There may be some value in it, but really decide, what do I stand for? What do I care about? And how do I spend my time there? Not only teaching that to my daughter right now, but also living that for myself, because especially with teenagers, you can talk to your blue in the face, but until you actually do it and they understand it and see it. And I also think that makes a difference in your community, because You stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do that thing because I want to do this thing and it's important to me. And I don't think enough people do that. I think, if I do that, my kid won't play or my reputation gets messed up. And I think honestly, it strengthens your reputation when you stand for something and just say, and find a balance, right? My daughter's playing volleyball on Easter. I don't love the idea of volleyball on Easter, but guess what? It's in Chicago, and I've got cousins in Chicago. Can we play volleyball in the morning, and then can we spend time with people, honor people and family that evening? What's the balance of all the things that are going to ask for your attention? And sometimes you have to and ought to balance them. Sometimes you don't. And just being able to identify which ones you do and don't is super important.
Yeah. What was your first job?
Marco's Pizza.
Uh-huh.
Walk there. There came a point where someone was stealing money from the register, and I hadn't been there when those things were happening, so I got to work the register. I was like primarily register, which was again into my banking career and was all the things that I got to enjoy doing.
Nice.
Yeah, Marco's Pizza. I still love a great Marco's Pizza, but it has to be from Northeast Ohio. They're not the same.
Oh, okay. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years from now, Abby will have graduated, which makes me want to vomit when I say that. She's amazing. She's going to do fine. I will not. I will be in her dorm room, in her bed, waiting for her to come home from class. No, I think we're going to be in a very different situation of empty nesting. And again, what really matters to us and how are we, like, whose concert can we get to next? Or what city can we get to next? I think at that point, Champion will have grown. Again, it will also reach some value, maybe a young adulthood, because 5 years from now, we'll be 20 years in business.
Wow.
There should be some managers in places and people in places. And Central Ohio will look different 5 years from now, too.
Have you seen that Intel on Intel speech
So
with
good.
Betsy? Oh, my gosh.
So good.
It's a little daunting what's going on.
And that's one of the things that really caught my attention about, man, how are we going to grow this thing and be ready, again, to solve a problem in advance of people having it. And so I'm excited. Yeah. I know there are certainly some disadvantages, right? But I think there's a lot of advantages, economic advantages for this area as well.
Yeah. Well, since we're called Cosmos and Commerce, what is your drink of choice?
I like vodka. Vodka doesn't like my marriage. When Dwight's drinking vodka, the party should never end, and I'm ready to fight. So that's not, I can drink it with my friends because they'll fight me, but I can't drink it with Dwight. But I also like gin, like a good cucumber gimlet.
I've never had that.
Good.
I'll have to try that.
It's really refreshing, although you have to be a gin drinker, but it's lime and cucumber and very summer spritzer kind of vibe. Yeah.
You'll have to come up with a fall drink now.
I know. I just only want summer. So if I just keep drinking the summer drink, does that
You'll
make
feel summer? Yeah. Okay, here's a good one, a fun one. Would you rather have to give a surprise keynote speech at a major banking conference with just 5 minutes to prepare, or have to handle a rare, tricky pest situation in a high-profile client's house without any of your usual tools?
Oof. Yes, I don't do bugs. As a matter of fact, Dwight yells at me when I scream about spiders and things that are in our house. He feels, because we own a pest control business, that I ought to not scream. And in fact, funny story, I probably should have started with this. So Dwight and I met. He knew my cousin, and I was staying with her for a couple of months over summer in college, and he lived across the street, and there was a spider that was huge. He was literally like, I don't know, 3-4 feet around. He was big enough. I've got bad eyes. He was big enough that I saw him at the top of the stairs when I looked down. So he was that big. And he, of course, my cousin called him to come kill the spider. I had gone to the store to buy Raid because, again, I don't need anybody, right? That was, again, only child syndrome and maybe, again, some immaturity. So I went to go buy a can of Raid. When we looked at the back of the Raid can, it did not kill spiders. So maybe a miss there. So anyways, we met over, he came and killed a spider in my bedroom and then never left. But my bedroom was in the basement. But yeah, I don't do bugs. I can do communicating about things. So I could do a bank thing. I could do a business thing pretty quickly. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is to go to the chamber and talk about our business or business in general and support small business owners with what I know or maybe things we've done in the past. But yeah, me and the customer, if we are at a house, we're in the corner together. Ew. What is that? We're not going to make it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Helen, where can our listeners find you?
You are welcome to shoot me emails. My email is very long, so I'm sorry in advance. But it's first initial last name, so H Holloway at championpestandtermite.com. You can find me on the website as well. If you send an inquiry there, I'll get that. Or every Pickerington volleyball game, because that's our passion. We love our city. We love our sports. We love our church. So Pickerington is home to me, and so we'll be out there often and as often as we can. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the things we've been through or the life that we live and the fun that we manage and the circus we call life.
Awesome. All right, folks, that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you, Helen, for sharing your awesome journey and from banks to bugs. Seriously, what a story.
Thanks.
If you liked what you heard, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your friends and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next episode. We've got more cool chats and stories coming your way. Helen, thanks again for hanging out with us. And to all our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time on Cosmos and Commerce.